Mr. President, I will sound a little redundant here because we've been talking about this bill for a long time now, for several months. People don't realize how long it takes to get a defense authorization bill all the way through the system. And there's no doubt in my mind this is the most important bill of the year, every year. And the importance, I think, is pretty well demonstrated by the fact that we've had successfully passed a defense authorization bill every year for 60 years. And I feel we do the same thing. It's coming up. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, but nonetheless, it's a bill that has to pass. Now, when President Trump came into office 4 years ago, we had a problem. He inherited a military that had serious problems. In fact, during the last 4 years of the previous administration, that would have been 2010 to 2015, the president depleted the budget or reduced the budget for the military by 25%. And I don't say that really critically of President Obama because he had different priorities. He was upfront about it and didn't consider this to be high enough of a priority. Now, the sad thing about this is at the same time that he was reducing our military spending by 25%, Russia was increasing theirs threefold, and China was increased by 83%. So we dropped ours by 25%. At the same time, China increased theirs 83%. That's really serious. You know, people have this assumption that America has the best of everything and that we don't have a problem out there, but we do. And we found several systems where they were actually getting ahead of us. So working with Congress to pass the NDAA, the appropriations bill, we secured nearly $3 trillion in funding in our nation's defense. This year alone, the administration will provide more than $740 billion for the resources our military needs to keep our country and our troops safe. The fiscal year 2021 National Defense Authorization Act cements President Trump's hard work to restore our military to be the best fighting force. You know, that's what we're supposed to be doing in America. The NDAA authorizes critical investments that protect our military advantage across all domains, from the skies to the seas and even now through space. Whole new program. And with the President's leadership last year, the NDAA created the Space Force. It's the first time there's been a new branch since 1947. And that's happened this year. This year's NDAA makes sure that it's set up successfully. One of the things about the Space Force that I think people who are somewhat critical of it, we were doing a good job in space before without the Space Force. But the fact that we can concentrate all those efforts in one force and be on equal footing, because that's exactly what our primary problem is out there with China and Russia. They both have what would be, in their interpretation, a space force. So it was important that we did too, and that was the right thing to do. This also authorized the procurement of 93 F-35s, the Joint Strike Fighters, to continue the rebuilding of our overworked combat aircraft. It also includes authorizations for C-130J aircraft, which will modernize our fleet, used to transportation personnel, and also for refuelers and the things that we have to do in the military. So, and that's an upgrade of one of the old versions, but the J model C-130 is a great vehicle. And we got to have it authorized and all of it, the priority is set. That's what this bill does. They also have authorized the procurement of 9 new battle force ships, including the Virginia-class submarine. We've talked about that for a long time, and now we finally are doing that. And another area we've been doing is our nuclear forces. Our president has been a champion for our nuclear modernization efforts, and for good reason. Our nuclear deterrent is the cornerstone of our national security. The NDAA ensures that our nation wields a safe and reliable nuclear deterrent, by authorizing the resources needed to modernize. Now, we didn't do this for a long period of time. We fell behind. And this bill is reversing that, and we're getting back into the competition, the nuclear competition. That's where the real threat is. Everybody knows that. We have, I think having the best weapons and equipment is critical, to be sure, but we also need the infrastructure and manpower to support it. And over the past several years, Congress has provided the military with significant funding increases and authorized to begin and continue the critical military construction projects overseas as well as in our country. These military construction projects can be found everywhere. I mean, from Arkansas to South Carolina, Oklahoma to California, Missouri to Massachusetts, all across the country. And the investments that we build also in our improved family housing. A lot of people, I've heard people complain about what we do with the military in this country, and they try to say that we're spending more on military than both China and Russia put together. Yeah, that's true, but there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that the most expensive thing in building a military is individuals, what we're spending on individuals, on housing, on all these things. Now, when you're dealing with, you look at one of the communist countries, you look at Russia, you look at China, they don't take care of their people. They don't have that expense, and that's why we spend more than they do. You know, just in the last 2 years, what we've done to improve housing for our troops and their families. Other people don't do that, but we do it. So that's why it's so significant that we do this. I have a concern that I'd like to share, and I hesitate to do this because it'll take a little bit of time, but people out there don't realize in a bill like this what all goes into it. And I looked at the people that are heading this thing up, and yesterday Senator Reid talked about the Democrats and the Republicans, the staff people that have worked so hard. And let me say this, we could not have done this without the cooperation and the love that we have for each other with Senator Reid. I mean, that's he and his heads up the minority, I head up the majority, and together we want to make sure we have the best product in the world and that we get offer the best of everything for our troops in the field. So I want to really single out Senator Reid and for all the work that he has done. He's been a great partner and a friend throughout this process. And we want to thank our colleagues in the House also, and Congressman Smith and Congressman Thornberry. We all work together. You know, these things, and I've been involved in a lot of these things, and they always ends up in the big four. That's where you have the leading Democrat and Republican in the House, Democrat and Republican in the Senate, insofar as defense is concerned. And we iron these things out. But in the meantime, this long bill is one that it's just taken just a lot of work. And I know that yesterday Senator Reid got a chance to mention the names of and show the appreciation for the Democrats that worked in the minority. And I want us to do the same thing for the Republicans in the majority. John Bonzo, I don't think there's a person in Washington, D.C. who knows more about the military than John Bonzo does. And he's put together a group of people. These are all experts, and they all worked. You know, people don't understand this, but I'm talking about weekends, Sundays, times that they have to work to get these things done and to get a bill in a position, because you got to pass it through the Senate, and then you have to go through on the Senate floor, then you have to go to the House and the House committee and the House floor, then you have to have a conference. And there are some things in this bill that we avoided having, and I'm thankful that we did, quite frankly, that the House wanted and the Senate didn't want. We were able to iron out these differences and get them done. But to do that, we had to work long, hard hours. I can assure you that the staff worked a lot longer hours than I did. So I single these people out as really experts, and I want to show the appreciation. And I'm just going to read them off to you here. John Bonzo, we know about John Bonzo. We know what he's done. He's been with me since he was years ago stationed at Fort Sill in my state of Oklahoma. And he's been with me, and he's been heading up this group and putting this group together. This group consists of John Wasson, Tom Goffis, Stephanie Barna, Greg Lilly, Marta Hernandez, Rick Berger, Jenny Wright, Adam Barker, Adam Troe, Al Edwards, Sean O'Keefe, Brad Patu, Jason Potter, Katie Sutton, Eric Traeger, T.C. Williams, Otis Winkler, Gwyneth Woolwright, Katie Magnus, Lee Brewer, Debbie Shirello, Gary Howard, Tyler Wilkinson, John Bryant, Griffin Cannon, Carolyn Michaki, Soleil Sykes, Brittany Amador, and Julian Schofield. Now, these people, they're just names to a lot of other people, but each one has just really performed in long and hard hours. There's been more work, staff work, going to this bill than any other bill that is before us any time year-round. So I just appreciate so much the hard work that's gone there, and we will pass this bill. It's one that, if we don't pass it, we're not going to give the resources necessary for our kids in the field to have the safety that we can provide them and to have the equipment. We want to get to the point where we have the very best of everything out there. And right now we don't. We're not, China and Russia are knocking at our door. We have to do a better job than we've done in the past, and I'm going to be working with the administration to do everything we can for the coming year. But right now, we need to get caught up and go ahead and pass this bill. This bill is the roadmap for the next year, and that's why this is important. So I encourage all of us to do what we have to do to get this bill done, hopefully today, but definitely by tomorrow. I believe that will happen because people do care about our troops. There's no one more deserving in America than our troops are out there in harm's way. And we want to make sure we do the right thing for them. With that, I yield the floor.